So as the introductions, being a collage artist, there were kind of two broad interests of mine, which are the concept of image and space. Specifically interested in how we kind of collect images with our visions from the space that we inhabited in, and that kind of sites inspire us to create new visual contents, and then the visual content transform the space once again in various way, ready to be seen and collected. So in using art as a medium to kind of investigate the contemporary image culture in order to comprehend that particular refined dynamic between us, image, and space, as well as moments of displacement. Initially, my practice focused a lot more on urban space, hoping to understand how that visual aspects of specific space can alter the experience of visitors. And at the same time, I also become very interested in psychogeography as a methodology and the practice of walking and wandering. That particular seemingly mindless activity, but very active mode of looking and engaging with the surrounding. Very much similar to the concept of floor noir and boredom that's articulated by Walter Benjamin. And therefore, I began to visit quite a lot of different spaces using photography to collect a lot of impressions of the space, and then using collage as a way to reimagine the urban space and hoping to disrupt that functionalist structure in terms of urban planning and architectural design. During my master at OCAD from 2017 to 2019, I kind of shifted my focus from urban space to digital space due to the fact that as an introvert, I probably spend a lot more time at home on my phones or desktop instead of actually walking on the street. So if there is anything that's causing the distress or the sense of displacement, it's probably coming out from the internet. And also around that same time, like many others, start to noticing some subtle changes around my habits, around a lot of the moments within everyday life. For example, the most common topic around this time, I also like something that we often kind of question about what kind of object, significant objects our smartphone is to us, and also why do I constantly have this urge to produce and consume? Why do I feel guilty about not doing anything? And why can I no longer just sit here and spacing out like I used to do? And during my research, I was introduced to the German Korean philosopher Byung-Chul Han, as well as other artists and writers such as Hito Shiro, Lev Minovich, Michel Foucault, Jacob Sear. So through their work, kind of construct a more clear perspective of what kind of space digital internet is. And in many ways, today's digital communication platform really performed a lot more like a giant meat market within the influence of neoliberal capitalism. Visual content has to be stripped down to accelerate the exchange of informations in order to stimulate instantaneous gratification of desire. And Byung-Chul Han kind of described this pornographic quality as the aesthetic of the smooth, describing that smoothness as the glossy surface of Jeff Koons' balloon dog, which only stimulate raw desire to consume and touch, but has no inwardness hidden behind its smooth surface. So whatever we see is whatever it means. The contact of the digital creations, like our faces in a selfie, has to be cropped, zoomed, filtered, scrubbed down, smoothed out, and pushed closely to the screen surface. This particular reductive process can be seen in many of the contemporary digital creations, such as some games on our cell phones, satisfying videos, completion of cat videos, even 3D render artworks, and many other contents. In many ways, the poor image has now evolved into the smooth image, existing only for the purpose of to be consumed. Therefore, during my thesis, my practice is largely about collecting these smooth images from different platforms like Google Alert, and see how I can use art as a detour to elongate that visual experience, making them more ambiguous and less consumable in different kind of formats like collage, sculptural objects, animations, videos, interactive medium, or installation. And because of that pornography nature of the digital space, oftentimes I feel like the internet can feel a little bit dulled, but not insufferable. However, that impression kind of changes during the pandemic and quarantine. We start to noticing people feeling disconnected, bored, constantly want to be away from the internet. So I began to wonder if technology is truly so advanced that we are tightly connected with one another, and also there's so much entertainment that's being provided on the internet. Then why does it feel so much more satisfied, relaxed, or even just belonged while walking alone in a park instead of scrolling online with the rest of the world? So after doing some research and self-reflections, I kind of realized that digital space may have become rather hostile due to the aesthetic of the smooth. And as we know, the past 2 years has been rather chaotic, where shitstones has emerged all around the world due to the pandemic and also other various social political events. And the quarantine kind of put us very firmly in the spectator seat to both accept all information that's coming towards us passively, but also to giving us room to kind of really carefully examining our relationships or our experience on the internet. And since encountering images no longer require us to engage, but having them simply reveal themselves in front of us in the most bare form, every information's text, images feels like a loud, big, bold letter statements. They are now atmospheric, becoming violent gusts of winds, coming at us from all angles, begging us for seconds of attentions and agreements. Additionally, the software design of digital space is very much deeply rooted in capitalogical thinking. Functions such as algorithmic recommender systems can be seen as non-coercive attempt to persuade users to change their behaviors or habit voluntarily, restlessly beckoning us to kind of fall into that endless cycle of consumption and production, making the digital space a very difficult place to dwell within. And in that sense, image and the internet suddenly create this very complex power dynamic where the inhabitants, us, are constantly demanded to receive, align, and express as quickly as possible while the given information is shrunk for fast communication and the issues itself becomes more and more complicated. So as a person, I often question how do we form a solid perspective against the ever more complex and diverse operation of powers that always demands us to react and align. As an artist, our practice-based research usually are the tool to navigate and construct that perspective. However, as we know, since the pandemic, more and more art-related activity are shifting from physical space to virtual setting, and I began to question the role of artists as well in digital space. There is a bit of a skepticism in me, or simply worries that artists are encouraged to go through the same reductive process and adapt that aesthetic of the smooth in their art practice to remain visible online. And that's not a criticisms on artists per se, but a lot of things coming together: the algorithm, the platform itself, and just the consumer habit of us with images. And the social media platform seems to always urge us to perform as a generator of images or the facilitator of the shitstones instead of a genuine creator or researcher. We constantly need to post, repost, like, comment, and share it, being hyperactive to actually remain visible. Does not really leave a lot of rooms for self-reflections or examination because they're deemed to being seen as not non-efficient. So therefore, like many others, I was pretty overwhelmed and confused, not sure actually how to react and proceed as an artist. The conundrum for me becomes how do I build a criticism about smoothness and hypervisibility while needing to fight for attention myself? How can we actually contribute to the ongoing discussion, but not just simply by shouting into each other's mouth? How can we maintain a meaningful practice even though the systems and the algorithm reverse the smooth artwork? So besides creating gesture-like artwork, which often critique an issue by embodying it, like Maurizio Catalan's piece Comedian in 2019, what can I do about my own complicity as an artist? So if millennial time is about performing for the internet, this generation I may already reach to a point of exhaustion, and hence the conclusion comes to a desire to be discarded with regards, a desire to retreat, and a realization that it's acceptable to be inactive, even if it results in becoming invisible. We kind of need that appropriate distance between us and visibility to reclaim that leisure aspect of our time that is so saturated with filler and routine. It does not mean to leave the digital space or reject technology at all, but attempting to create a corner within the digital realm that's free of capitalist mindsets. This strategic retreat is very much reminiscent to Byung-Chul Han's articulations of contemplative lingering rituals and death drive. Also, the term domestic cozy, addressed by Indian American author and researcher Venkatash Rao. So even before the pandemic, there was already an increasing collective desire to remain invisible, to remain inactive, longing for nothingness, or sometimes to even play dead. So all this phenomena shows a desire for a safe space away from the aggression created by hypervisibility and hyperactivity. And like the some subculture in China, these emerging nihilistic attitudes are not pessimistic per se or escapism, but rather a way to retaliate against the achievement society, attempt to regain control over our time that is dominated by capitalist standard of life. So perhaps there is some creative potential that we can pick up behind behind this idea of inactivity, and maybe that strategic retreat can allow the artist to create a counter aesthetic to smoothness that is free the need to be seen and to be liked. So with all these thoughts behind my brain, I began working on this project, Digital Landfill, a quiet space for me to temporarily retreat from the noise, prepare and recharge, learning how to space out again. The process of the project is kind of organic, are very much an articulations of accumulations of different experimentation through the past 2 years. Generally, it always starts with me collecting image materials and experiment with them. So for this project, I start through the platform of Instagram and begin to apply psychogeography as my methodology again, replace the activity of walking with scrolling. So in the span of 5 months in early 2020, earlier this year, actually, I will go onto Instagram every once in a while, starting with a random keywords in my head and put that into the hashtag features and start scrolling, giving myself the rule that every 3 posts I scroll, I have to choose to either continue scrolling or go into the captions and find a different hashtag. And that kind of functions like taking a turn in physical space. The whole digital walk will be screen recorded and later import into Adobe Premiere, exported as video clips and image that will be further processed in Photoshop and After Effects. The project kind of want to experiment with fragmentations and the imperfect use of masking and rotoscoping to kind of reverse that user habits that we often have with software. So instead of giving into the generative feature of the algorithm, I'm kind of interested to see how that push and pull relationship between the artist and technology can create different aesthetic results. So thinking about question of how can I use the tool differently, collaboratively, or just playfully, trying out different ways to elongate the time I spend with an image instead of just pumping them out. After I collect a bunch of image fragments and video fragments, I had the idea of digital landfill for quite a while, and try to compose a space in After Effects or other platform, but nothing really fits with what I imagined. And during a conversation with my friend Adrian Masuzik, who is also a Toronto-based new media artist, she suggests me to look into A-frame and send me a tutorial, and that kind of just quickly come together. Technically, there were quite a lot of problems when I first start using it, but conceptually it fits like a glove. So I hope that the links is posted in the chat. And we can take a tour together. So it works better in Google Chrome or Firefox, based on the feedback that I've gotten. If we can explore the space together, it is a multiplayer platform, so you can actually see each other in there. So when you first enter the project, there is a little menu to just quickly introduce how to orient yourself around the space. You use the keyboard and mouse. Use keyboard as directions and then keyboard to orient. So currently, the space has approximately 500 image fragments that's been piling up and will continue to accumulate as the time goes. There is also hopefully more project that I can do in A-frame, and that can be connected somewhat using the portal features. So here is one of the example. This is a project that's using only images that I took around my household of one piece of aluminum foil. And just interested to see how I can use physical debris to construct a surrealistic landscape within the digital space that kind of reminiscent to that Zenfu-like bonsai. So in the next year, hopefully the project will expand and connect more different space to the digital landfill. So the project is not really an answer or solution to anything, but rather a self-amused attempt to take up some space within the wilderness of the digital realm. The idea is to create this almost like a digital park that is quiet, comfy, semi-private, and unorganized, but often left out and invisible because of the algorithm. And seeing how the feeling of coziness can translate into a visual fuzziness, like a wool sweater, comfortable but full of friction and static. However, fuzziness is not a defined aesthetic, but rather a collective mess. So through the open source platform like GitHub and Glitch and the hyperlink nature of the web space, I really hope that there is a possibility in the future to connect this digital landfill to other creative project that's our other artists created in the future, and further expanding this idea of digital recreational space through a unique network of very diverse digital projects on different platforms. And perhaps that effort can change the commercialized nature of the internet and reverse our embedded urge to perform for the capitalist production. So in the end, I think I would just quickly mention a little bit about the future possibility and development of the project and practice. There will be more accumulations, expanding of the digital landfills, trying out different visual materials to construct the space, in more investigation into the idea of fuzziness and coziness. And also, when I was working on this project, I actually collect a lot of video of human body performing for the internet. So also interested to see how much I can dive deeper to the concept of a performative digital party and see how I can utilize the UI UX design animation to somehow interact, interrupt, or collaborate with this digital bodies to compose either visual material for the digital landfill or other sort of longer durational film projects. Yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much.